Hello, hello, Leo. Welcome to your May 2019 overview reading. This is good for you if you're a sun, moon, or rising Leo. And unfortunately, I'm having some tech issues, so I don't get to do my normal video edits that I normally would. But go ahead, tune in. If there's some information you're wanting to have come up during this reading, just set your intention now. Take a deep breath into the diaphragm. If you're wondering which decks I used for this reading, you are welcome to check those out in the description box. And don't forget to subscribe if you are interested in getting more of these videos. Okay, now I'm going to lay down the timeline really quick and then we'll dive into the reading. Now, first things first, let's go ahead and pull a truth bomb to get things started. Okay. Action trumps hoping. So I like to remind people that taking action is the most potent form of manifestation. You know, that's actually what gets things to happen because it's very simple. Energy input equals energy output, or results output. So this is where it's kind of like, no, if you're trying to figure out how to manifest something, sure, yes, do a vision board, meditate on it, do everything like that. That's great. But if it comes down to that's all you're doing, then it's going to be very hard for that manifestation to make its way to you. So you want to take action as much as you possibly can this month, because it's like you can pray as much as you want, but at the end of the day, like, you need to show that you're serious. Now, the animal for you this month is tarantula. So I'm getting that there's like some transition, because I'm getting, particularly when I'm thinking about the way a spider moves and kind of their whole demeanor, if you will. I think it's kind of about innovating as you go, as well as just like cranking it out and getting done. Like, don't give yourself too much time to think about it. If there's something that you want or something that you need, it's going to be in your best interest to like start taking action and making it happen and patching it together and figuring things out along the way. You don't need to know every single step of the process before you're in it. And a lot of the time, if you've been contemplating something for a while and you're like, well, how do I do this? Or what am I doing? Or how am I figuring all of this out? It's kind of like you're going to end up stalling yourself out or talking yourself out of taking action. So the best thing to do right now is just, you know, kind of go with the flow, do it, make it happen, and you'll figure it out later. And then the word of the month is knowledge. Seek understanding, look beyond your assumptions. Know that your answer already exists. Okay, that one's pretty straight and to the point. Whichever statement resonates the most with you is the one you need to hear. Excuse me. Okay, so the central energy for you in the month of May is the Queen of Cups. So really getting in touch with your emotions and your emotional mechanics is what I would add on to this. It's not just about like being able to identify your emotions, right? That's a big part of it. But then there's also, what are you doing with those emotions? Where did they go? What is your normal, like, what's your normal process? Like, if a negative emotion comes up, maybe you acknowledge it, but if the next thing you grab is a numbing behavior or if the next thing you do is try to like silence it or like put yourself to work instead and not process the emotion, that's something that's really important to keep in mind. So understanding your emotional mechanics is really going to be the focal point for you this month. Now, what you have shifting out is the Queen of Swords. So feeling into extreme independence, or like maybe there was something about like you needing to do something your way. But if that way wasn't working for you, then it's kind of like, okay, go back to the drawing board, get curious about the emotions, because maybe it was like trying to force yourself to do something, like you may have been like trying to reinvent the wheel and coming up against some roadblocks or something to that effect. So now it looks like you're actually shifting out of that extreme like independence or wanting to do it your way. Maybe this was ego driving a lot of the time, and now you're moving into more of the connection, more of the deep understanding within yourself and being able to have compassion with that part of yourself. The oncoming energy for you is the Hermit. I'm going to clarify this. We have the Star. So quiet, contemplation, consideration, introspection, stillness, remaining self-focused. Like, I think one of the reactions to negative experiences might be to like push energy out, put focus on things that are that might bring comfort, but not necessarily results, and also not necessarily healing. And so I think that this is pushing you into that space a little bit more, because the Queen of Cups is about doing the emotional healing and stepping into emotional mastery. So the Hermit is kind of like the quiet, and the introspection is where the light bulb starts going on. You know, that's when you're starting to get more information come through. And that's also where the knowledge is going to start to make an appearance. The answers that you're needing, the solutions are already there. It's just that you have to be quiet enough to hear them. And the Star is like a divine healing, divine timing. Everything is kind of like panning out. But if you're not taking action, then don't expect any different results, right? That's always, always, always the rule, is without action, then one of two things is going to happen. Either nothing will change, and then you're going to get uncomfortable enough to the point where you decide to make change. Or if you ignore the signals to take action long enough, then you're going to manifest something that basically, it shows up as something destructive, right? Like something that makes you or forces you to make a change, and that requires discomfort. You can make this process as easy or as challenging as you want it to be, but you have to listen to yourself. You have to listen and pay attention closely to what it is that is working for you, what you're getting guided to do. Like, you really, really, really have to listen to that. Now let's look at the external experience, or the external world. So this is like what you're having reflected back to you, and also things outside of your control. So first thing, we have the Nine of Wands. Hold on, let me pull the other one first. And then we have the Ace of Cups. Okay, I'm going to clarify these two as well, because this is like things are moving very, very quickly. I think from the external, it might be one of those months that's just like, oh my God, like this totally just slipped through my fingers, or there's so much happening and it's so fast. You know, I wasn't expecting that. And then the Ace of Cups is reflecting self-care, and also the way in which you fill your cup, you take care of yourself. You're also available to others. And for some of you, like if you've been manifesting a relationship, if you're again actively taking action on that, then the Ace of Cups is a really, really great sign for that making an appearance. And So it just depends like where your focus is essentially on how that Ace of Cups is going to manifest. Have you been neglecting yourself? You know, is this more opportunities for self-care? Maybe you have some space for that. And then I have the Six of Wands. So this is the victory card. You're making a lot of great strides in terms of, you know, making this shift right here from the Queen of Swords to the Queen of Cups, and like pivoting in that direction where you're more healing focused or centered around that part of yourself. So I'm just getting that, you know, the Hermit, the introspection is a necessary condition. You might find that that's like something that you really have to do in order to access the information that you need, the wisdom that you need. And then it's like the external, you really have the right recipe available to you. It's just about grabbing onto it, right? Like, because you can have everything that you could possibly need, but if you're not reaching for it and you're not grabbing onto it, then like then you're going to remain in complacency. That's generally the principle. So remember that you can be an awesome manifester and you can do that all day long. Like I said, you can meditate and do a vision board and do all the right things all day long. But if those tools and resources make an appearance, you know, you have to be the one to take action on them as they appear. So that's what this looks like. And then in the internal world, so this is your experience. First thing, we have the Wheel of Fortune, and this is where it's kind of like, okay, ball's in your court. This is entirely at your discretion and up to you. You guys know that I say that quite a bit. Like, it's not concrete. It's not already defined. Like, a large part of this has to do with what are you doing? Like, at the end of the day, that's what the Wheel of Fortune kind of begs the question. Like, what are you taking action on? And let's see what else is coming up before I speak more to that. We have the Emperor. So personal power is really important. More of the masculine. Running more masculine energy is going to be better for you this month. That's definitely what I'm getting here. You know, sometimes there are seasons, and if I've said anything that contradicts this, if like let's say you have a sun and moon video that are kind of at odds with each other, just go with whichever one resonates more. But the Emperor represents the masculine. It represents like discipline as well, like getting it done, making it happen. Like, and even though you can really only apply this to yourself. And so that's where it's like, if you're giving away your personal power every chance you get, then you're not going to get very far. And so this is saying the Wheel of Fortune can turn in your favor. It just requires that level of discipline that maybe you feel like you don't have, or you haven't had, or maybe you know you have it. It's just about applying it. You know, and this is just showing like you have way more power and potential than you're probably giving yourself credit for. But the problem, it looks like kind of the block in this whole situation is this right here, the Queen of Cups. This transition point from like the Queen of Swords, that I'm going to do it my way, I'm going to go against the grain. Like, I think that was probably working to your disadvantage for some time. And so now this is like an evolution into being really in touch with yourself. And that's where, if you're not willing to lean into that experience a little bit more, then that's what's going to take control, is what you leave in the shadows, what you expose to light and healing, and you kind of open up the windows and air things out. That's the point in which you can access that personal power, that healthy will to take care of yourself, and you can really bring these things together, like calling in that Ace of Cups, through utilizing the Emperor and kind of meeting in the middle here with your personal sense of awareness. Okay, so let's get into the timeline. So if you're new to my channel, hello and welcome. We have the first quarter of May, second, third, and fourth quarter. So this will be where you start the month. That'll be where you end the month. So the first quarter of May, we have the Ace of Swords. This is still like that independent thinking, and it's like ideas, inspiration, new information, all of that's kind of coming in the first quarter of May. Let me see what follows this. The second quarter, we have Temperance. So if you have the information, if you have the wisdom, the next question is, what are you going to do with it? That's automatically where this goes and where this is taking you. So it's like you might have all the ahas, but then you want to start the implementation process. And that's also one of the conditions that I see coming up this month is like, it's going to move fast. Like if you're not keeping a close eye on your time, then it could easily just be like, oh my gosh, May is already here and gone. And so this is also like a perception thing, right? It's kind of like that. If you're over marinating the information, if you're sitting with it for too long, then you're going to talk yourself out of it. So that's why you kind of want to act quickly, even on the things that are uncomfortable, because that's what's going to help you kind of put yourself in a position where you have to take that next step, or you have to complete that stress cycle, or if something uncomfortable is coming up, you're going to have to acknowledge it. You don't want to shove it away because then it's going to fester. So this is all about like exposing things and bringing it to light and opening up the windows so that you can access your creative power, your personal power, the healthy side of your will, like really embracing forward movement with that Ace of Cups, being healthy relationships, healing relationships, as well as more self-care. Third quarter, we have the Eight of Swords. So kind of getting trapped. This is, like the narcissist card in this deck. Yeah, I don't know if you know the mythology behind this, but he falls in love with himself and all he can focus on is himself. And then he just like rots there basically because he can't get out of his own reflection. And so what this is showing is like if you're over identifying with the negative feelings or like one aspect of yourself that might be coming up, it could suck you into a rabbit hole. So the best way to break out of that is one, self-care is really important, having cathartic cries or whatever it is that you need to do. But that's one layer of kind of breaking out of that, because this is when like ego wants to get back into the driver's seat. I'm seeing ego here and ego pop up here. Or it's like resistance to doing things that are good for you. That could also be another thing that's coming up with the Eight of Swords, is like you creating your own boundaries and not being able to get past that. It temporarily, of course. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It's just that the perception is, no, there's this roadblock, so I'm not even going to try or make an attempt. And that's where you can kind of get stuck in the story. Do not over-identify with individual facets of yourself or with individual elements of your story, because that's dangerous to do. What you want to do is try to move the needle a little bit in a different direction, and also, like discharge that energy somehow. Maybe you have a practitioner you like working with, or maybe if art is an outlet or any type of creative expression, maybe writing or, movement can also be really, really great for this as well. So just focus on like allowing it to move, because this is stuck. This is like things kind of get into a bottleneck. So it's not necessary for that to happen. It's just kind of letting you know, like, hey, don't over-identify. Okay, and then the final quarter of May, we have the Ace of Wands. So getting that energy back. It's about allowing it back into your space, allowing it back into your life. You know, this isn't something where, like, once your energy is gone, it's gone. It can always return to you. It's just that you have to collect it, right? So focusing on where you want your energy to go, what you want to build, what you're focusing on, and how you're using your energy to support yourself rather than kind of like, squander it away. That's where the Ace of Wands is like, hey, you have all this energy. Now the next question is, what do you want to do with it? That's always the question. What do you want to do with that personal power? What do you want to do with your action? What do you want to do with all of that? And just ask yourself along the way, like, really, what, is it worth it to sit in the same narrative that you have been in for a long time? Or is it, is it more worthwhile to invest in something bigger and better? Now we're going to do a 3-card pick. So you're welcome to ask a question. You can ask for guidance. You can just pick something that feels good to you, whatever it is that makes sense at this time. Okay. Card number 1. 3 of Branches, big picture. So this actually looks like a remedy for any time you're like, this is an uncomfortable space I don't want to go into, or this is an uncomfortable emotion that's coming up. Or if you're feeling stuck, like, oh, there's no way that this can be repaired, or that, this story can have a different ending. What the 3 of Wands is inviting you to do is zoom out. Like, look out, big picture. You need to change your focus. If you're too zoomed in on one thing, even if it seems really excruciating, it's gonna throw a wrench into everything. So one of the solutions is zoom out, think macro, and that can help you reconstruct your next steps and what it is that you're doing, because at the end of the day, this is about building, looking out ahead and asking yourself, what do you want to build? Not necessarily what are you building in this moment. Like, that's the step after zooming out. So just remember that you kind of have to look forward, and then you can say, okay, well, what's the next right thing, not 40 steps ahead. Card number 2, we have the 7 of Vessels. Lots and lots of options. I think you have a lot of different directions to go. There's infinite resources. There's infinite solutions, infinite opportunities. So don't limit yourself to thinking that, like, there's only one path or one right direction. You have a lot of freedom and autonomy, and that can help or harm you, right? Depending on what you're looking for and what you want to experience. And so when you're looking at all of your options, just remember that, like, there's probably a lot of them that are going to contribute to that big vision that you have, to your healing, to your whatever it is that you're doing. And then there's probably a few of them that are maybe going to point you in a different direction, or maybe there's a few options that'll keep you complacent. Maybe there's a few options that'll take you somewhere else. So it's not about there being one right thing. It's just about decide between several options that are going to push you in a direction that feels good to you. And that's kind of a way to consider the options that you have at hand. Card number 3, we have the 4 of Arrows. It's time to rest. It's funny that this is sitting on top of the Hermit card, because it is about the quiet, the contemplation, the silence within yourself. Like, remember that that's how you get to all of your personal wisdom, is by being quiet. If you're constantly trying to fill that void, or trying to paper over that, then it's not going to be quite as helpful as if you just kind of like quiet the mind and allow your body to express what it needs to express. All right, my friends, that is all that I have for you today. I certainly hope you've enjoyed this reading as much as I've enjoyed reading for you. And until next time, if you want to know which decks I use, they're in the description box. If you want to work with me one-on-one, if you have a question, if you want to get a reading, if you need some support, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. All of the links for that are in the description box, or if you want weekly assigned specific readings, there's an option for that too. And until next time, have a beautiful May, everybody. I'm sending you nothing but the best, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.